The number one reason for people not to do the vehicle servicing on time is an inconvenient location of the dealer. Think about that. And when you think of the problem that we're solving at scale, even, mega fleets that you think that have this optimized, that are managing hundreds of thousands of vehicles, one of the largest rental car companies in the world was telling me the other day, they take around 5 days to service a vehicle. 5 days of downtime of that vehicle because it's 2 days to find a driver, 1 day for the workshop to do their thing, and 2 days to find a driver to bring it back. We can do the entire end-to-end cycle in a matter of 4 hours.
Today, I'm thrilled to chat with Fede Ranero, CEO of Draiver, a tech-driven solution revolutionizing car transport. We dive into the logistics of moving 1.4 million vehicles and how he's building the Uber of car deliveries. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible: OpenLane, Edmunds, and Draiver. And now, let's get into the show. Fede Ranero on the CDG podcast. Fede, welcome.
Josie, it's amazing to be here. Great to see you, my friend.
Your hair got longer since we met at NADA last year.
I know, and you're more of a celebrity now, even more so.
Yeah. My wife disagrees, but we'll go with that. So isn't it funny how before the internet, there's no way to be this, anonymous persona with a flick of a finger. Suddenly you're not. And it's funny because you walk into the NADA exhibit and not a single person knows who you are. An hour later, you walk out and people are like, "Hey, man, I follow you." It's crazy, dude. It was crazy. So, but it was a fun experience, and honestly, just happy to be growing the platform.
Oh, it's incredible to learn more about you, your background. I think now it all makes sense how you understand it from an operator's point of view, and that's incredible. So, congrats on all your success.
I think you have a super interesting story. You're working today on an extremely exciting company, which we'll talk a lot about and what problem you're really solving in our industry. Let's rewind a little bit because I think your past is extremely important, and I want you to tell your story. Right? You have, your resume is I call them like a brand name resume. You've done a lot, and it's really, I can only imagine the experiences you've picked up. You were at Uber, you were at Kavak, which is for those that don't know, Kavak is an online auto retailer. Based in South America. You can call it the Carvana of South America. Extremely exciting company, super well funded, massive scale. Give us your background. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you went from Uber, this disruptor, but through Kavak, through Draiver today. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to this point in your career.
Yeah, Josie, happy to share. I've been in the tech world for quite some time now. I think I look younger than I am. Fortunately or not. But I think my passion and understanding of the mobility and tech space really got to a next level in my time in Uber. I was in the company for 4 years. The last 3, I was leading the Mexico and the Caribbean ride-sharing market. So general manager of what became our third largest country worldwide, Mexico, in terms of volume, one of the most profitable. And I, experienced tons of phases in there, from the early launching of 50 plus cities to the crazy growth, to the path to profitability, at a time where the profitability of the entire model was being questioned. Prior to IPO, we were already being extremely efficient. Then we faced tons of other phases of regulatory situations where we, for example, promoted a framework for drivers to be formalized, coming from the informal economy, 50% of them unemployed, having a way for us to retain their taxes, right? So to calculate their value added taxes and their income taxes in very favorable rates, and to be able to comply for them towards the government. That opened up tons of worlds of opportunity for them. And, tons of issues up to post-IPO, but I could summarize that my main business challenge was vehicle access. So that's really what drove me down to join my former colleagues that I was also part of in a previous venture on that had started Kavak, and it was in a very early stage. And that got me to solve that problem from the other side of the table.
So let's dig into that for a second. First of all, Draiver is a spin-off from Kavak. Is that correct?
So Kavak is an investor, financial backer, partner, board member of Draiver, but it's a totally independent company. Yes.
Okay. You're touching on a theme that I think is fascinating, which is that, correct me if I'm wrong here, right? But you essentially were part of this, fast growth company, right? Kavak, again, Carvana for South America, for lack of a better explanation. And you basically said, hey, there's this incredible system we built here. Let's take this cost center, right? Turn it into a profit center. In other words, turn it into a business. And so if I'm reading this correctly, what you're doing today at Draiver, you had built a very elementary version of this at Kavak, or maybe a simpler version of this at Kavak. And Draiver is essentially taking that cost center and then opening it up to the entire dealer community, saying, hey, Kavak is 10 businesses in one, right? Similarly, as your US counterpart, Carvana, CarMax, I always say these are enterprises, right? This is not a car dealer. This is a logistics company, a software company, right? A reconditioning company, which we'll talk about that too. And so you took all that knowledge and you said, hey, let's turn it into a business because we built such an incredible solution for auto retailing. Would you say that's a pretty good summary?
That is a very good summary. And this is why I love speaking to operators, because you get it very well. And, in Kavak, we operate in emerging markets. We like to say that we go after the markets that are fundamentally broken. We're solving deep constraints that the only way to solve them is precisely to do what you say. Build a bunch of businesses that were inexistent in markets that, the typical nature of them are that of 90% plus of transactions happening on a peer-to-peer basis, less than 5% of transactions having some sort of financing, having no sort of after-sales support, having no sorts of warranties. There's no coverage. There's no nothing for you to cut down the information asymmetries. So all of those pieces you have to build in vertical capabilities that once you build them in such a way where you understand Kavak as another customer of that capability, it allows you to take it to the market. And you mentioned the dealership space, which is one of the areas that we've seen the highest growth in. I'm happy to explain in which use cases, but we're also serving other verticals like OEMs, like fleet management companies, like car rental companies, because when you're managing vehicles, ultimately, among other things, you're in the business of moving cars around. And you understand that as an operator when you realize that time is money. And a lot of the time can be optimized in the vehicle movements, and doing that at scale in the fastest and most efficient way is really hard to do without technology. That's what we solve.
So when you say that, explain that to me. You sort of touched on it now, but I want to understand what is the core problem that you're solving for the dealer industry?
Yeah, so we're basically a B2B vehicle delivery management and execution solution. So we simply move vehicles in the fastest and most efficient way. And I think the best way to describe your question on what are we solving is to tell you a story on how that I experienced that firsthand as an operator in Quebec. Again, used cars C2B2C marketplace.
You were retailing thousands upon thousands of vehicles a year, used cars. Tell me about it, right? So how did you solve that logistics problem?
As CEO of Quebec for 4 years, I led the entire auto tech piece, which means the car journey. Now, what does that mean? Well, it starts with the vehicle inspection, right? When you, Yossi, come to us and want to sell a vehicle, we're inspecting that vehicle. We're predicting probabilities of failure of the auto parts in that vehicle over time to determine what to invest on that vehicle. Then we're moving that vehicle to a reconditioning facility to do everything in-house, from the procurement of auto parts to the manufacturing execution, the detail and photo studio, etc. We're delivering that vehicle to a hub, a customer-facing hub. We are delivering that vehicle to the end customer, and then the party starts. It doesn't end for us. What do I mean by that? After sales is critical for us. It's critical from a customer engagement point of view, and it's critical in the AI era, more importantly, so from a proprietary data collection point of view. So we want to enable in an after-sales experience everything at the push of a button, on demand, at home for you. Maintenance service, we pick it up, deliver it back to you. In Mexico, for instance, there's this, one of the biggest pains of living in Mexico is having to do this environmental verification twice a year in government agencies, that it's a horrible experience, etc. Well, we can do that for you. It could be body and paint. It doesn't matter. The point is, we use Draiver as the enabler to interact with customers at the push of a button on demand, to be able to serve them. And through that, we extract data from the vehicle that allows us to train models to understand how auto parts on certain cars behave over time. That allows us to upsell to you as a customer, right? You might have come for a body and paint work when we actually notice that your battery is at a certain point of its age life. We might suggest you to change them. Or we might come back to you afterwards, right? You bought to us a Toyota Sienna 2021, and we might get back to you with offers to change it from a newer car or an auto equity loan or what have you. But the point is, we use any excuse we can get to get our hands on the vehicle to serve our customers better and to optimize the entire ecosystem. And Draiver is basically the veins of that operation, the ability to do that reliably, on demand, throughout the peaks and valleys at scale. I heard one of our customers the other day call us the easy button, which I loved. And I think easy encompasses at least four concepts that we're trying to solve, right? We're fast. Time is money. It's definitely speed, regardless of whether you're moving one vehicle or 1,000 vehicles, right? Number two, we're reliable, right? Whether you're moving 1 or 1,000 cars, 1 or 1,000 miles, class 1 to class 8 vehicle, we're there for you. The peaks and valleys, the challenges that mixes bring, we're there. 3, we're safe. We do all of the filtering, the vetting, and if something happens, we're there to cover your back. We have a fully captive insurance unit, fully owned, fully regulated to take care of the coverage of those units. And fourth is we're visible, which is what we're talking about. It's the transformation of that black box into full X-ray visibility for you to be able to do more, to create new products that you weren't offering before because you couldn't fulfill those promises, and to optimize that for speed and cost and efficiency of those movements, right?
This episode is brought to you by OpenLane, the premier online marketplace for dealers to buy and sell used cars. With over 25 years of innovation in the wholesale automotive industry, OpenLane is dedicated to simplifying the wholesale process, helping dealers succeed. Their platform offers a fast, transparent way to source both used and fresh inventory backed by top-tier inspections, AI-powered damage detection, and easy-to-read OBD2 code scans. Plus, with OpenLane, you always know exactly who you're buying from. For sellers, OpenLane's user-friendly marketplace connects you with the right buyers no matter the price point. If you're new to OpenLane, sign up today and enjoy a $2,500 sale-free credit for new sellers. Learn more at openlane.com or click the link in the show notes below. What are the top pain points that you're solving for dealers today? You mentioned one important thing before we were on air. I'll bring it up in a second. But just generally speaking, right? I know service deliveries is a big issue. Obviously, there's retail deliveries for customers that buy online, likely a smaller issue than service deliveries. But just give us a little overview. What are the top pain points that you're solving for dealers in the US today?
Look, you want to hear the anecdotes, and I experienced those pain points myself. Like, think of every vehicle that we sell that we had to move 4 to 5 times throughout. So the time to process a vehicle is highly dictated by your ability to move those legs in the puzzle as quick as possible and to do them very efficiently. So that's a pain. Think about how you do that in-house, right? Every day, we have in Quebec reconditioning facilities that produce over 20,000 vehicles a month. You show up early at 7 a.m. and you see hundreds of drivers waiting for us to tell them what to do, right? How do you operate that at scale? How do you manage whenever there's peaks and valleys that really dictate your ability to deploy? It's really hard. And then what happens in those vehicle movements, right? Like in the past, we saw it all happen, right? There's auto parts theft on the way. There's route deviations. There's gas theft. There's all the things that you need to solve with technology, right? So how do you staff at the appropriate level and count on the overflow, or in some cases, exclusively on the ability to send on a per trip basis and on-demand movement? But also, how do you control with technology, the route suggested versus followed, the telematics of the trip, your ability to fulfill that customer promise and provide visibility of that promise to your customer. So when you're delivering a vehicle on sale, you can have visibility for you as an end customer, just as you see your burger being delivered by Uber Eats, etc., and so on and so forth. So if you break this down throughout the funnels of the dealerships, I like to think about it in 3 ways, right? Pre-sale, on sale, and after sale, right? So you start to think about, when I control these pain points of being able to offer the fastest and most efficient movements at scale, I can start to think about how to enable with this capability, or think of them as vitamins to enable other product offerings. So think of pre-sale, right? How do you get anyone to push a button and get a test drive on demand at home? We'll deliver the vehicle, have you test it for X number of minutes and bring it back at your doorstep, right? Think about that during sale. And actually, an anecdote here: Elon Musk didn't.
Wait, but how do you do that? How do you actually do that? Like, are you sending a truck? Are you like, do I as a salesperson press, hey, I'm selling this car, come pick it up, or like, how do you actually do this?
So how we do this is we connect with companies, ideally with APIs, to receive all of the vehicle movement requests, although they could come from other forms, like even an individual app. We pull those movements and we change them in the most efficient way. Again, to do it in the fastest and cheapest way. So what does that mean? It means if you're a driver in our system, you'll see, we might tell you through our driver app, pick up a vehicle at A, take it to point B. At point B, immediately, we know what the next best action is, and we're chaining that. So, for instance, our integration with Uber for Business is dispatching an Uber to you at point B to go to point C. Well, point C might be a customer home that is just selling another vehicle to us. So you're picking up that vehicle, you're taking it back to point D. Then another driver in the system might pick you on the way to reposition you back to point A, where you start the cycle. So you're receiving the vehicle movement request. You're chaining them in itineraries to optimize for speed, which is typically what matters most for customers, although you could also optimize for costs. You're dispatching them based on sort of business rules. Whether it's a class 1 to class 8 vehicle, there's licensing requirements, etc. And our model allows for what we call a hybrid approach, which means you as a dealer could either bring your own dealer employed drivers to the system that will have access to our app and be dispatched movements across, or you can get access to complement or to exclusively use our pool of over 20,000 plus independent contractors in the US that are fully managed, vetted, and insured by us to do those movements on demand.
I get it. So you're like, essentially, you've created this Uber-like platform for a dealer to get a driver on demand and to use it for any purpose. What are dealers using this for?
So let's continue to break that down, right? We were mentioning the funnel, right? Pre-sale, push a button, get a test drive on demand. On sale, I was going to mention this anecdote by Elon Musk because actually he did me a favor. He sends this email that was leaked, and you can find it out in December 22. He says, all Tesla employees, Merry Christmas. You did a great job this year. Please go ahead and volunteer to deliver a vehicle yourself. Think about that. Even a tech-driven company like Tesla has challenges meeting the peaks of end of period, end of year. There's no vehicle delivered. There's no sale declared. It hits the numbers. That happens every period, right? If you don't have the ability to fulfill those peaks on demand, which could be a vehicle delivery, could be the first, middle, or last mile, for example, to the railhead or out of the railhead, it's a really constrained piece of the entire ecosystem, right? And then think of after sales, right? So dealers are using this. We're actually integrated with dealership management systems like Reynolds and Reynolds. We've seen data that proves this. And actually, that RO dollars increase by virtue of 40% plus when you offer customers the ability to pick up and drop off the vehicle. Actually, the study that was released by
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Think of that study that you and I think we discussed that in person during NADA that Cox just released this year, that said that the number one reason for people not to do the vehicle servicing on time is an inconvenient location of the dealer. Think about that. And when you think of this, the problem that we're solving at scale, even mega fleets that you think that have this optimized, that are managing hundreds of thousands of vehicles. One of them, one of the largest rental car companies in the world, was telling me the other day, they take around 5 days to service a vehicle. 5 days of downtime of that vehicle, because it's 2 days to find a driver, 1 day for the workshop to do their thing, and 2 days to find a driver to bring it back. We can do the entire end-to-end cycle in a matter of 4 hours. So think about what that means in terms of the experience, in terms of the productivity, and your ability with that vertical capability to offer additional things that you weren't offering before at the push of a button on demand.
Where are you currently seeing the most demand for this? Right? What parts of the country is it where we're seeing the most online sales? Or like where are you seeing? Talk to us about that.
Look, we have presence coast to coast in the US, and we serve, I would categorize our customers into 4 verticals, right? The first one of them would be fleet management companies, right? So for them, we're doing the in-fleeting of new vehicles, and you have all types of vehicles, all the way to the big trucks that could be manufactured in Mexico and then have to be distributed coast to coast to their productive locations in the US, the defleeting, the servicing, etc. First vertical. Second vertical is auto retail. And that we're doing the movements that we just discussed, pre, during, and after every sale, right? Then you have OEMs. And I would say these two, auto retail and OEMs, is the one that we're seeing the most growth on. We're seeing a very strong shift to drive away, which is what we do, meaning putting a driver behind the wheel. Butts in seats. It's not necessarily putting the car in trucks, which you might do for some long distance moves, but you will still, for some first and last mile need, to complement with the drive away fashion. And for some others, you can do all of them entirely, right? Think of the train that arrives outside of the manufacturing plant every 4 days and you have 4 hours to fill it out. You can only do that 3-mile movements on a drive away fashion to meet those deadlines, right?
Tell me more about that for a second. So I think it's super scrappy, and I would just say different. Like traditionally you hear of logistics companies, software, whatever it is, you don't think of a real human just coming and driving that actual vehicle, right? You think of like an expensive truck, an Isuzu that cost $65,000 and is back ordered for 2 years. Tell me why I know those details. Don't ask. They're not back ordered anymore, but they were. But what? So are you? That is. I mean, I think that's fascinating because I have personally a lot of experience with that. But is that where are dealers adopting that kind of model, right? Versus trucks? Is it simply like a calculus of like it's cheaper, right? A cost benefit analysis. Like why are dealers doing that versus like what's the rationale behind that? Tell me.
It's a complement and it's the perfect solution for some specific use cases. Let me give an example. In an unnamed direct-to-consumer OEM that we just serve in a very complex fashion, cars arrive from, across the ocean by sea. Then they're put on trains that arrive to the city center. Then you have a 3-mile movement from the railhead to the delivery hub. I mean, putting that specific movement on truck is not only very expensive, but it's also highly constrained in this specific use case. It's slow, etc. And then when we started to do that, which they were doing in trucks, and they started doing a drive-away fashion with us, they asked us to stop in day 2 because we filled their customer delivery hub. Why? Because that was never a constraint, because the velocity of transportation was the constraint. So now the question becomes, now that you can do this scale, why don't you let us deliver to your customer doorstep? Because many of them, depending on the business rules, are within a 30 mileage range, which is perfectly fine for a customer to be able to get their vehicle driven to their doorstep and delivered, as opposed to making the customer go and pick it up or having it delivered in a flatbed. And again, you're talking about asset heavy, expensive. The point is, additional optionality drives incrementality. Provide the option to the customer and let the customer choose the trade-off between speed and time. And many of those movements entirely, you're better suited to do them on a drive-away fashion entirely, right? Think of, again, going to even another example of new cars, right? You're moving cars with trains across, coast to coast. You still need to fill the train and to offload the train. And the best way to do that is with drivers behind the wheel. And then you can take it either to a cross-dock facility where you put them in trucks if they're going long distance, or in many instances, if it's within a certain mileage range, well, you can actually go and deliver it all the way to the last mile. So, by the way, our platform also allows, depending on those business rules, for you to select the type of vehicle movement you want. Where we specialize and where we're the direct service provider is where we put our drivers behind the wheel and deliver those movements. But we're also integrated with many hauler companies for you to be able to see in our command center a full visibility and ability to dispatch those movements even to haulers for some of those legs of the end-to-end movements, right?
Fede, how many transactions are you seeing on a monthly or annual basis right now?
So last year we moved over 1.4 million vehicles. This year we're doing hundreds of thousands per month.
So that's an astonishing number. Now, where my head goes to is I have to imagine you're seeing some leading indicators, right? Where are you seeing an uptick or trends? right? So what can you share? I mean, what can you see in your data about just the car business now, deliveries in general, any trends that are notable worth sharing?
So to speak to your audience on the dealership specific space, what we're seeing is them utilizing this vertical capability to serve customers on demand, meaning picking up and dropping off a vehicle, no matter how many, to serve them better. So meaning, before the sale, it could be that test drive at home to your doorstep, right? During the sale, you have the ability to, within the dealership management system or your entire funnel, to schedule a specific delivery of that vehicle at a particular point in time. After sales is where we're seeing the most of the trends with the service valet offering, right? It's like, we'll go to your door, and you posted a lot about this. It's like, how do dealers save more time to customers, right? And there's some dealers doing, ride sharing and vouchers and other things. Well, the way to save the most time to customers is by having them not to visit the dealer at all, right? And picking up that vehicle. And by virtue of doing so, what we're seeing is incrementality on doing the servicing on time, right? Back to the cost study we spoke about, and also the ability to increase the RO dollars by virtue of 40% based on our studies, given that you're serving them on time and you're having that ability to upsell to the customer with better technology and ability to simply deliver on those promises.
This is completely unrelated, but just because I'm a geek and I'm curious, what happens to the driver? What happens to the driver after they drop the car off at a customer's house?
That's an excellent question, and I think that's where AI is really good at, is at determining what the next best action for a specific actor in a complex system where what we're doing is, the intersection of the digital and physical world. So for you to avoid a single independent movement, for me to tell you, move a vehicle from A to B and then I'm dropped off, we're always thinking about how to keep you on the move, which drives higher utilization and allows you to move more vehicles in less time. So there's always a next action for you. So when you deliver a vehicle, say you take a vehicle from A to B and B is a dealer, our AI models are predicting, is there another vehicle that is going to be available in that location? So the best action might be for you to wait for 30 minutes and pick another vehicle to do a round trip or take to another point C. Or that's not what we predict. So we might actually send you an Uber on demand that the driver does not have to request, does not have to input the origin, destination, the payment method, nothing. Everything is happening through our integration within the itinerary, where you're simply dispatching an Uber and you can see the Uber details and it's taking you to the next point where you're going to be repositioned and picked up another vehicle. That could also happen with what we call chase drivers, which means drivers in the system dedicated to reposition drivers to keep them productive on the move. So I think that's something that I'm very passionate about. Yeah. When you ask of the driver experience, given my background in Uber, is we have a very strong value prop for drivers to earn in our platform. Why? Let's break that down for example, because it's important. What you're talking about on convenience is particularly key. We always bring the driver back home to where they started, right? They don't need a vehicle, which again was the number one barrier for drivers to earn in the platform. And since they're not operating their own vehicles, they earn more on a net basis, right? They don't have the total cost of ownership of that vehicle, the gas, the depreciation, the insurance, what have you. 3 is, to your point, they know precisely how much they're going to make and how long they're going to spend to make that money. I'm going to do this chain of moving 4 vehicles in 5 hours, as opposed to going online and not knowing how many trips I'm going to get or how much I'm going to be paid for those trips or what's going to happen to me after delivering those vehicles. And I would say that the 4th, they enjoy the fact of not moving people. Particularly, a lot of the interpersonal conflicts that happen in gig platforms are related to passenger and rider situations.
This episode is brought to you by Edmunds. In today's automotive landscape, car buyers invest more time than ever in researching, considering, and comparing options. But for dealers, the challenge lies in pinpointing the audience ready to make a purchase. Enter Premier by Edmunds. Premier offers dealers a groundbreaking way to connect with in-market car shoppers precisely when, where, and how they prefer. With over 20 million monthly visits, Edmunds.com is the go-to destination for buyers seeking market insights, expert advice, and budget tools to make informed decisions. These shoppers aren't just informed, they're laser-focused on the exact car they want. Now, it's your chance to make that connection. Through Edmunds Premier, dealers gain access to this highly coveted audience, Simply list your new and used inventory on Edmunds and watch as qualified in-market traffic flows directly to your vehicle detail pages on your website. Don't miss out on this opportunity to elevate your dealership's visibility and sales performance. You can sign up for Premier today at edmunds.com/CDG. Again, visit edmunds.com/CDG or click the link in the show notes below. So let's talk about trends and outlooks for a second, right? So hypothetically, if tomorrow every single dealership had adopted Draiver, right? Or a product like Draiver where they were able to do deliveries or subcontract deliveries with real humans in every part of the sales experience, whether it be, actual selling the car, selling service, whatever it may be, right? First of all, you mentioned it has a big impact on customer experience and service and on actual sales, right? So you're more convenient. So the customer is more likely to service with you because they know they're getting picked up in delivery. Dealer doesn't have to deal with the headache. I'm curious on the sales side, which you mentioned several times that's a service that you perform. Are you seeing lower numbers or lower utilization relative to 2 years ago when, 2 to 3 years ago, I would say when obviously a full online sale was higher, or the percentage of customers buying fully online was higher. It has gone down as a percentage basis. Are you seeing lower utilization on that side of the business where dealers are having more customers come into the store now? Any trends that are notable, worthy about sharing on there?
We're seeing higher utilization actually, because think about it, right? It's what you're seeing with Amazon selling new cars online is just one of many steps that we'll see in that direction. And whether the entire selling process is fully online or not, the delivery piece and your ability to embed that within your promise and either deliver a customer home or have the vehicle ready, given the reconditioning process, etc., where the customer is going to pick it up personally at a dealer, is where this vertical capability becomes really critical, right? And again, what we see is that an optionality drives that incrementality. When you're able to react faster and better to your customers and to fulfill those promises at scale and provide the visibility throughout, they will trust you more. They will do more business with you. It's that easy button that wasn't present before, right? Going back to the Amazon example, if you're buying a car online, either entirely or in pieces, because some of them you might actually want to visit before and whatnot, the question becomes, what is the value add for me to, just as Amazon Prime delivers my packages, we like to say that what Amazon Prime is to packages, we're to vehicles, right? If you're not having that ability to schedule that precise delivery and do that in any part of town or any part of the day, regardless of whatever constrained capacity you have in-house, you're really doing a disservice to your business, because that will also open up many doors of opportunities for you to impress your customers and do more of that in the after sales process and the trade in or trade up or trade down, etc., down the road.
All right, Fede, you're truly building a one of one company. So it's very exciting. And no wonder you've grown so quickly, because this is actually very unique. I haven't seen this done at the scale that you're doing it by any means in our industry yet. I'll tell you, I'll give a little funny story here, or potentially an opportunity for any of the entrepreneurs in the audience that want to build the next big company. So just like you're doing this with Draiver, what goes through my mind, right? When I think about like really complicated parts of selling cars, and specifically, I'm referring now to used cars, I predict an increase in reconditioning centers across the country. So I'll explain what I mean by this, but like dedicated used vehicle reconditioning centers, not to be conflated with service centers, right? Every dealer knows your service is incentivized for gross, for ROs. A reconditioning center, right, where you're servicing used cars, think CarMax, Carvana, well, CarMax somewhat, but really Carvana and, Drive, whatever. These are centers that are really built for lean manufacturing, right? Getting these cars in and out as quickly as possible, efficiently as possible. So here's why I predict this and why I think that there's an opportunity for a massive company to be built for this, to power this. It's because there are reconditioning platforms on the market. And as far as I know, and the ones I've experienced and have experienced with or, tested, it's really tough to get them truly integrated into your systems, your operations, right? They're kind of bolt-on solutions. But if you think about it, it's similar to this. Like you took this logistics issue and you created a ton of value out of it. And, now you're serving the industry. Imagine the opportunity to do that with reconditioning as well, where to me, I mean, it's a huge pain point. We ran a reconditioning center, a massive one. And just knowing very well that as dealerships continue consolidating and there are more dealerships in, saturated under the same umbrella in specific regions, there will be more of a need and the math will make more sense to open up more reconditioning centers. So that's my thesis. And I think that we're going to see more investment go into that arena, because when you see a used car reconditioning center, it is a beautiful thing. So anyways, I'm giving you my creative idea here for the entrepreneurs.
I invite you formally to visit one of our reconditioning centers in Quebec, because you will see precisely that. That's what we had to build. It's this, 20,000 plus capacity reconditioning centers where they're built in a manufacturing sequencing line with workstations where cars are in.
It's incredible.
And then the question becomes, your constraint is how quickly you can get the cars in and out of there. And that's where the logistics comes in. And that's where Draiver comes in, for you to be very agile and be able to pick up that car that you just purchased at a customer home, take it to the reconditioning facility, take it out of there to a finished vehicle, customer facing hub, deliver to a vehicle, etc. So definitely, I fully agree with your trend. That is something that we're seeing as well.
So as we wrap up, tell me a little bit about what is your outlook for just dealership logistics? You're in the thick of it here, right? When you think about the next 12, 18 months, what are you working on today in order to, evolve the industry over the next year or so?
Look, we're just getting warmed up. We're developing tons of integrations across, the dealership management systems and other custom specific integrations with various of our customers. Again, the best way for us is to receive those movement requests via APIs and be able to pull them. And with AI, which is a lot of our time being invested on, figuring out what's the best way to build those itineraries to do more with less, meaning deliver cars quicker, with lower cost per movement, with a better experience for the driver, with better visibility and user experience for the customer, not only the dealer customer, but the end customer, right? For them to be able to track or request or edit a movement on demand at scale. And I think that's the area where I'm very excited about, is our focus on technology, particularly with AI. We're seeing things happening in weeks that used to take years. We've complemented our tech team with a LATAM tech hub that is building amazing things throughout this year, and we'll continue to see more of that. And a lot of the complements are built within that start with problems that the dealers bring to us to the table. For instance, some things we're doing with AI are related to, not only building those trips and figuring out what the next best action in every single endpoint is, but also, creating the agents, more than the copilot, the specific agents to serve either inbound or outbound that movement request to the end user, be able to transform that with the API connections to an appointment, to a vehicle movement request, to a scheduling follow-up via text or SMS or email, having all of the customer data. And again, with that capability driving the incrementality and your ability to serve your customers on demand, unconstrained. That's what we're truly trying to build and focused on as we think about tech and AI, which is truly fascinating.
Fede, Ranero, if anyone wants to learn more about Draiver, where can they go to learn more?
Look, I think a great place is we have an app that anyone can try. Again, our product is modular and we are here to move either 1,000 vehicles or one. And you can download that app. If you're a dealer and want to test us out, I think we're going to display a QR code for you to download that app. Whether you're an individual that had your kid go to college and want to send her a car, or whether you're a snowbird that want your car delivered down south, we're here for you. And hopefully through that, you'll test our ability to do that magic at the push of a button. And with that, you can, get in touch with us and we can think about integrations and other ideas to evolve and make of this a true vitamin for you to take your business to the next level.
Fede, thanks for coming on. We'll throw up the QR code here if you're watching on video. If you're not, we'll also put a link in the show notes below so anyone can visit Draiver, learn more. You're doing some great things, man. So excited to see your continued growth and appreciate you coming on.
Likewise, man. It's amazing to speak to an operator like you. It really takes the conversation to the next level, and I appreciate the time and the space.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.